Hello, and welcome to Feed Your Brain. I am your host, Andrea Paratto. Can we enable individuals with dementia and Alzheimer's disease to lead a life that promotes independence with their activities of daily living? What is the difference between quality and fulfillment? I am joined today by Jean Makesh, CEO of the Lantern Group. Hi, Jean. How are you today?
Hi, Andrea.
We're going to talk about something a little bit different today, and hopefully I can say this correctly. Can you please explain to me what personality-centric rehabilitative care is, and is it important for care providers to pay attention to individual fulfillment?
Absolutely. Thank you. So in our industry, in assisted living, nursing home, memory care, CCRC, in our industry, we paid a lot of attention to person-centric care.
Okay.
We, no matter what, we treat them as an individual. We treat them as a person.
Right.
The focus has been on that for a very, very long time. I think since I got into this industry, person-centric care. And that's very important. Yes, absolutely. I totally agree with that. It's important that we treat every person, individual, as a person, who they are, what they are all about. You don't really want, the disease or whatever they have influence your perception or your approach or your attitude and the way you engage with that individual. They are, it's very important. It's a person. In addition to that, what I would like to add is when it comes to Alzheimer's disease, I think it's very important for us to understand the personality of the individual.
Okay, yeah.
The personality of the individual is very, very important. It's important because it helps us to understand a certain behavior,
Okay.
a certain attitude that they may have. We don't want to say that so-and-so is like this, or they presented this behavior or their attitude, it's because of the disease. If we're not able to discern one's personality, we will not know if it is that who they are or if it's because of the disease.
Okay.
So it's so important for us to understand one's personality. Like, for example, like the way I had shared in one of my previous episodes, where my children never thought that I could be that happy-go-lucky guy. And I didn't even know that I was that happy-go-lucky guy until recently. I actually ran into a friend of mine, a childhood friend of mine, that I have not seen or spoken to since I was in my senior year. And when he saw me, he said, "Man, you haven't changed. You're still the same. You just take everything lightly. And whatever you have in your mind, you just say it. And you don't mean, it's not like you're just like, you live in that moment. You live for that moment. And you don't really care about what others say, think about you. And you're always laughing and funny." And that's what I see even now. I was shocked because I never would have seen myself like that when I was in high school. And then another day, a couple of days ago, someone said, "But you really have the last 18 months or so, we're seeing that you are not who you used to be. You've changed. You're looking at things very differently." And I thought that was very interesting because the more I sit back and think, especially the last 6 months, they said that, I seem to get a bit more angrier fast. I'm not angrier. I'm getting angry.
Okay.
They said, we've never seen you angry.
That knitted eyebrow more often?
So I think it could be because of the pandemic. Everything that, we're living through or with could also be directly impacting, my behavior. So the reason I bring that personality is it's very important for us to understand and know what the client, senior's personality is. And it has to be personality-centric. Our personality gives an idea. My personality will give you some insight into who I am.
Right.
Not who I was.
Right.
Because of the disease, I may become who I was. Despite the disease, it always should be who I am.
Okay.
We should never talk about, so-and-so used to be. So-and-so used to be a physician. No, so-and-so is a physician. So
Right.
used to be a caregiver. No, so-and-so is a caregiver. That stays with you. See, you never want to talk in past tense when it comes to our seniors.
Okay.
Even if when I'm 90 years of age and you say, well, Gene used to be a CEO, I'm not sure about that, how I would take that. Maybe I would take it better. I don't know. So I think it's important to always talk in terms of present tense than past tense. Now, when it comes to personality, you have to know my personality, how I was. What makes me, when do I get annoyed? When do I get frustrated? What gets me excited? When I would cooperate, when I would participate, how I live my life. What did I do? See, all of that matters, because what happens is our personality gets shaped, over time, I believe. And at the same time, our personality is also expressed over time, the way we live our life. And now, you take me, if I'm your client, I was this happy-go-lucky guy. Okay, and you put me in a secure unit, lockdown unit, and I only get to see 4 walls, and I don't see anything else, right? Or I see a few people, and I don't see anything else. See, I think that maybe people are beginning to see that I'm angry. They're seeing my anger or my frustration is because prior to COVID, I lived my life.
Right.
I traveled both locally and overseas. Now I'm traveling overseas. Now I have to go get a COVID test. And I'm afraid that what is going to happen. Will I be able to travel? That anxiousness is always there, right? Because you're going for a very important business meeting. And now what if my COVID test turns out negative? So that has also, now I'm not able to live my life. I'm not able to travel. I'm not able to talk in front of people. I'm not able to go socialize. I'm not able to go out on weekends. Now I go to a football game. I'm so afraid what people standing right right next to me. If I'm being harmful to them, if I have COVID, if I'm gonna blow it on their face, if they have COVID, if I carry it home, my clients, my seniors, my staff, you see all that concern and worry that I have really starts impacting my presentation, right? So now you have a happy-go-lucky guy who's cheerful all the time, gets excited by little things and is always laughing and smiling, and you lock me down. What happens to me? How am I going to present myself?
I don't think it's going to be a happy-go-lucky guy anymore.
It's not going to be.
Maybe a little withdrawn. A little depression. Yeah, sadness.
Exactly. So it's important for us to be an effective caregiver is to really understand one's personality. And it is so hard for you to assess one's personality when someone has the disease. It's much more convenient for you to check my personality. And there are some, certain tests that you can do. You cannot administer those tests. The personality tests are a little bit more complex. They're not very simple. So the best way for me to understand who Andrea is, if Andrea is I want to know Andrea's personality, then what I would do is I'm going to reach out to your child, your children, or significant other, or your nearest family, and I'm going to ask questions. Questions like, what is Andrea's favorite color? Okay, that kind of gives me an idea. What are the activities that Andrea not loved, enjoyed, that brings Andrea out.
Right.
That's Andrea. And best vacations. What kind of vacation did she go to? Was it? Did she enjoy the mountains? Was it the ocean? Were the parks? Was it hiking, mountain climbing, things like that? I developed over 100 questions, and the 100 questions takes you back. If I administer those questions to you, it takes you back to your early childhood days all the way up to your 20, 25, 30 years old. Okay. And that kind of gives me some insight into who you are. Not who you were, who you are. Because As a caregiver, my responsibility is to bring that who you are out. Now, once I know your personality, then I know how to interact with you, how to engage with you, how to bring the best out of you. So understanding one's personality, knowing one's rituals is very important for a caregiver to engage, to interact, to be productive, and most importantly, to create that music that we are looking for the care receiver and the caregiver to sync. So that's personality-centric rehabilitative, PCRC, personality-centric rehabilitative care. For me to treat someone with Alzheimer's disease, treating someone with Alzheimer's disease in a way is actually rehabilitation. It's brain rehabilitation. It's kind of like a neuro rehabilitation.
Right.
It's very important for me to understand their personality, and that's how I coined the term PCRC, personality-centric. Yes, treating them as a person is a given, should be a given. You have to treat that individual as a person, no matter what, who they are, what they are. Now you're incorporating the personality to understand them and using that personality to rehabilitate them.
Does the personality go as far as that person's humorous side? Do they have a sarcastic side? Verbal engagements as well. So if a particular person with Alzheimer's disease is a very humorous person, would that help engage with that person and even bring them some form of fulfillment? If you were to engage on that level of personality, understanding that personality and just knowing that you can be silly with that person and that brings them fulfillment. Does that tie into the personality-centric rehabilitative care model?
Oh, absolutely. Everything, all of it. I mean, you put it so beautifully. All of it is very important. See, what fulfills me will not be the same that fulfills you. What fulfills you will not fulfill me. We all have different things fulfills us differently.
Right.
It is based on our personality, our experience, our lifestyle, the way we lived, our education levels. It could be many things that brings fulfillment.
Right.
So fulfillment is very subjective. It's not objective. Fulfillment is very, very subjective. Quality of care is objective.
Okay.
You can define quality. You can, because you can use objective ways, objective measures to define quality. But you cannot define objectively fulfillment.
That's interesting.
So things that fulfills me will not fulfill you. I could be a person that is deeply spiritual, religious, and connected to God. That brings fulfillment to me. If someone that is not religious, not spiritual, so whatever I practice may not fulfill them. Make sense? It's very subjective. So I think it's important for us to understand as caregivers is what fulfills the person that I'm caring for.
Okay.
Even in a relationship, we talked about the great experience, right? And we talked about where there's a crack in the relationship when we start impressing our role, our authority, our title. And if I keep telling my wife, I'm the husband, this is what I'm not. Okay, my responsibility is to take the dumpster out, and it's your responsibility to clean the plates. Well, you can define that, but in a way, when she is washing the plates, if I have the time and I can do it, I should do it. At the same time, I should not expect her to wash the plates all the time. Since I'm the one who takes the dumpster out, I should not expect her to take the dumpster because now I want her to do what I'm doing for her. So fulfillment also plays into, what is fulfilling to me is also some ways is defined by the love language that we practice. And I know it's another topic.
It's another topic.
Episode. There are 5 love languages. So the love language also influences our fulfillment,
Okay.
our personal fulfillment. So, when I have a client with a senior with Alzheimer's disease, what is important to them may not be important to their adult children. Sometimes we do what is important for the adult children and not important for the client, not important for the senior. The senior is not able to articulate their preferences, their desires, their needs, what will bring that personal fulfillment.
Right.
The adult children sometimes are able to articulate based on assumptions and also based on what they think is needed.
That makes sense.
Okay, I'm not saying it happens all the time. Sometimes I think what is good for my son.
Right.
My son is a senior. He's getting ready to pick colleges. There's something that I would like him to do, but my son, he may have a completely different desire.
Right.
So my son may not have the ability to articulate everything like the way I would be able to articulate when at my age. And he would try everything possible to articulate, every way possible, articulate everything, every way possible, his desire and preferences. Sometimes he's afraid to articulate because he thinks that things that he would like to do may not fit into my preference, my desire, my need. So fulfillment is very subjective. That's what I was trying. The reason I was giving all these examples is, it's very subjective. And I think that when you are fulfilled, you feel whole, you feel at peace. There is no need for anything. A moment where there is no more need. And can we create that? I think as a caregiver, we have to challenge ourselves. Can I create that sense of fulfillment to every client, every senior that I engage with, I interact with? Because like the way I said, no one planned to live in a nursing home or an assisted living. And I think that's why I talk about that moral responsibility, talk about caregivers have that power to make that huge impact. Everyone, designers, everyone has that huge impact, because I think in this industry, it's not about us, it's about them.
Right.
It's always been about them. So the sense of fulfillment is very subjective, and many times it's challenging to understand what it is. But I personally think that if you understand one's personality, we'll be able to figure out what fulfills them.
I have one question, and you can answer this, or maybe you won't remember. But when you talk about Alzheimer's, everybody who has Alzheimer's and dementia is a unique individual, right? Starting out in the healthcare industry, they just had dementia or they just had Alzheimer's disease. And there wasn't anything that really identified them as an individual other than the fact that they all had Alzheimer's disease. Was there a defining moment when you were working in this industry that led you to that opinion that somebody who has Alzheimer's disease is a unique individual and we need to treat them as such, and where that personality-centric rehabilitative care model came into play?
Yes, I'm glad you asked the question. Thank you. One of the things I realized early on in my life, when I was new in the industry, trying to learn about Alzheimer's disease, even though I'm an occupational therapist, but I still did not have the exposure that I've had in the last 15 years. So when I started looking at our seniors, and early on, I didn't know what to do. I honestly did not know what to do. I was doing everything that one shouldn't do, right from reality orientation to.
Do you remember yesterday?
Exactly. Or you just had your dinner, when they ask for dinner, or saying that they don't have children and they should go back to their room and things like that. And there's so much they teach you, and they've taught me, and I think they're still teaching me.
Yes.
And let's say, for example, whatever, I'll give you an example. So a few years ago, I want to say sometime in 2006, 2005, and I had a wonderful a young woman, 90 years of age. I could still call her young because she was so young at heart, and she had presented with a certain behavior, and I found a way to address her needs and create a sense of fulfillment for her. Now I'm going like, hey, I was like super excited. Okay, I know exactly what to do.
Right.
Now I took the same thing and applied with another woman.
How'd that work?
I fell flat on my face. Totally backfired. And that's when I realized, oh my God, I mean, yes, they have the diagnosis, it says Alzheimer's disease, but they are different. And they're unusual, they're very unique. And that, drove me to do further research. And that's when I realized that no two human brain is the same. I mean, when you read neuroanatomy, science talks about no two human brain is the same. And even the parts of the brain, when you take like hundreds of brains and you overlap, you take photographs of those brains and you overlap those brains, try to figure out, let's say that you find, you can tell exactly where the heart is. Right. You can tell exactly where the kidney is, the liver is, right? Mm-hmm. When it comes to the brain, you really cannot pinpoint and say that part where it is. It's around the vicinity because in this brain, it'll be right here. And another brain, it won't be right there, but it'll be maybe less than quarter an inch down to the right or to the left. So it's amazing. It's very unusual. That's why I feel like I say this, our brain is so powerful. It's very unique, very unusual. And they're not the same. They're not the same. They're unique, they're unusual. And now, when you have the disease, unfortunately, when you come down with the disease, the personality, you as a person, your occupation, your culture, your language, your lifestyle, all of that starts playing a very important role, as you go through the different stages of the disease. So there are so many variables that one has or one is exposed to, or one has cultivated or brought those variables into their life throughout their life, and that starts kind of influencing the individual during the disease process. So that's another reason why the personality, the fulfillment, that's how I learned about the existence of those things. And it's important for us as caregivers to really understand those two components.
Well, that's really good information. Thank you very much. Hopefully the rest of us in the healthcare industry can continue to learn from our seniors who are living with Alzheimer's disease so that we can make their lives way more purposeful and fulfilling in the future.
Actually, our lives, because yes. We will be there one day.
We will be there.
So we got to figure out this fast.
Yes, we need to work on it.
We got to work on this. But thank you so much, Andrea. It was truly a pleasure being part of this episode.
Thank you. We learned so much today. Thank you.